Hey guys, today we're going to be talking about writing linear equations, yet again, in slope-intercept form, but with a slightly different bit of information given to us. So we've talked a lot about linear equations, but this is one thing we haven't done yet. Let's look at the question. A line passes through the coordinate 1, 5 and 3, 9. What is the equation of this line in slope-intercept form? It's kind of a tough one, because we're not given a whole lot of information here, right? The only thing we are given are these points, two coordinates that the line passes through. I'm going to write that down. We are given 2 points. Now let's think about the different forms of equations that we have learned how to write. We've learned how to write point-slope form, and we have learned how to write slope-intercept. And of course, just kind of reminding us about what these forms look like, point-slope is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1, and slope-intercept is y equals mx plus b. Now, we know what these forms look like. Let's think about what kind of information we would have to have about a line in order to put what we have into one of these equations. Sorry, there's probably a better way to have phrased that, but it didn't come to me at the time. Well, in point-slope form, we need two pieces of information. We need a point, and we need the slope, right? Those two pieces of information will allow us to write our line in point-slope form. In slope-intercept form, we need to know the slope and we need to know the y-intercept. Those two pieces of information. So let's take another look at the amount of information we're given in this problem, and maybe we can determine if there's a way to get to one of these. Well, let's think. We're given 2 points, right? That kind of puts a check mark on one of these. That says, hey, we know something that we could put into our point-slope form equation. That's a good thing. We don't know slope, but we do know a point. But unfortunately, we don't know either of these, right? We don't know the slope or the y-intercept. So then we got to think. We know half of the information we need for point-slope form. Could we find out the other half? Is there a way for us to be able to find slope given the information we have? Well, luckily there is. If you recall, to the beginning of last week, we talked about a formula to find slope if you're given 2 coordinates. That's the slope formula, right? We said it was y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So we could take the information that we have in this problem, 2 coordinates, put them into this formula, and find the slope. That will get us the other half of the information we need to write this equation in point-slope form. Now, I know the problem asks us, what's the equation of the line in slope-intercept form? But the fact of the matter is, we've also talked about how to convert point-slope to slope-intercept. So if we can get it in this one, we can get it to that one. All right, so here's what we're going to do. We are going to find the slope from these 2 points. We're going to put it in point-slope form, and then we're going to convert it to slope-intercept. A 3-step process. I'm going to write those steps right over here so that we can jot these down in our notes. So this is the steps to take whenever you are given 2 coordinates a line passes through. You are to first find the slope. You are then to write in point-slope form, and then you convert that into slope-intercept form. All right, so go ahead and take a minute to write those down. Pause the video here if you need to. Jot those down in your notes because that's going to be really important for you to remember as we go through this next lesson. Okay, so let's start with our first step, finding the slope. Well, to find the slope, we use our two coordinates. As you recall, we label one of them x1, y1, and we label the other one x2, y2. Now, I know that's not perfectly drawn right over the numbers, but it's the best I could do given the screenwriting here. But let's go ahead and plug our stuff in. y2 is 9, our second y coordinate, minus y1, which would be 5, our first y coordinate, divided by x2, 3, minus x1, 1. Okay, so let's go ahead and subtract. So we're going to get 9 minus 5, or 4, over 3 minus 1, or 2. So there's our slope. Can we simplify that, though? We could, right? We could simplify 4 over 2 to just be 2. So that is our first step down. I'm going to check mark that step. Here's the next thing we want to do. We want to write that information in point-slope form. Okay, so we can do that. We know how to do that because we've said, we talked about on Thursday and Friday, that in point-slope form here, there's 3 variables you replace. You replace y1, m, and x1. Let's take a look at the problem we've been doing. Do we already have those variables outlined? We do. x1 and y1, well, they're from a coordinate that we just used to help us find the slope. We already labeled those earlier, right? And m, the slope, well, that's what we just found. So let's go ahead and plug our information into point-slope form. So y minus y1, or 5, equals m, the slope, or 2, times x minus x1, which is 1. All right, step 2's down. We wrote our equation in point-slope form. Let's finish off this process by converting it to slope-intercept. As you recall, it's a 2-step process to convert to slope-intercept. All we have to do is we take the number outside of the parentheses and we distribute it into the parentheses, just like this. 2 times x and 2 times negative 1. Well, 2 times x is going to be 2x, and 2 times negative 1 is negative 2, right? That yellow might not show up too well on the screen. Let me write that in a different color. So now we have y minus 5 on the left-hand side still, with 2x minus 2 on the right side. All right, we distributed. As you recall from last week as well, our final step, the only other step we have to do is getting that y on its own, or adding 5 to the other side. These cancel out, leaving y by itself just like we want, just like it is here, right? We get y equals, and then the 2x stays the same, and we get negative 2 plus 5. Well, negative 2 plus 5 is 3. And look at that. We got to our slope-intercept form of the equation. We're done. We finished. Now, I know that feels like a really long process. It feels like it's that long in part because we were explaining every step of the way, going over the minute details, all that kind of stuff, talking about some concepts. There's going to be a second video, which I promise will be shorter and faster than this one, where we do another example in a little bit quicker pace, where you'll be able to see that this process, as long as it looks, isn't actually that crazy in length. Okay, guys, I appreciate you watching this, and I'll see you in the next video.